Shalom. Thanks for turning up, everybody. I'm here today, as I've been introduced, on behalf of Stand With Us, and also to speak for those no longer here, to speak for themselves, Israel's victims of Palestinian terrorism. 5 years ago, I was standing in a Jerusalem forest with my Christian American friend, Christine Lucan, gagged, bound, barefoot, being held hostage by two Palestinians who had their machetes at our throats. Finally, after half an hour, one of them takes my Israeli ID card and removes my Star of David and pushes me to my knees. The forest rings out with the Islamic. Behind my gag, I gurgle, Shema Israel. He stabs me in the back so hard I fall to the ground, and now he leans on me, and each time he plunges his machete into me, I can hear my bones crunch. And it's a serrated bird, and I hear my flesh rip. And the only chance I have is to play dead, so I try to maintain the pain and just focus 2 meters ahead, and I watch the most unforgettable and somehow sacred sight of an innocent human being hacked to death before my eyes. They leave only to return moments later, and one rolls me over on my back, and now I'm looking up at that canopy of pines, and I see a sunset obscured by the silhouette of a knife, and I watch him plunge it into my chest, and it missed my heart by 4 millimeters. I've one last commission left in life, and that is to die nearer to where I parked the car so the police can find my body. And I manage to stand, and as I walk, I listen to the symphony of life. Birds singing, crickets chirping, bees buzzing, flies humming, twigs snapping under my feet. And I hear the call of death, bubbling and gurgling as my lungs fill with blood, and I am ever aware that the next step may be my last. Somehow I make it back to the car. I had 6 ribs that had snapped and were poking out of my back, 30 compound fractures in my rib cage, bones of which had splintered off into my lungs. I had a crushed sternum, a dislocated shoulder, a broken shoulder blade, 13 machete wounds in my lungs and diaphragm, and in that state, gag-bound, barefoot, I walked uphill for over a mile. 9 months later, I faced my would-be murderers in court. There was no forensic doubt I'd stabbed one with my penknife. They also confessed to murdering another Israeli woman, Netta Blat-Sorek, a few months previously. And as I listened to them snigger and watched them smirk, I asked myself, how can 2 men who were once little boys grow up and hold a machete in one hand, a Marlboro in the other, and hack at innocent women without blinking an eye? And the answer is incitement and incentive. The Palestinian Authority teaches its children that Jews are unworthy of life, and this incitement is in their media, their summer camps, and even their crossword puzzles. And the incentive is American and European taxpayers' money given to the Palestinian Authority, who rewards incarcerated, cold-blooded murderers with monthly execution stipends. Shame on the United Nations for not holding the Palestinian Authority accountable, and shame on the United Nations for pathologically demonizing Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East, and one that saw that it was an Israeli Arab Muslim surgeon who saved my life. Rabbis butchered in prayer, babies sleeping and slaughtered in their cots, schoolboys bludgeoned beyond recognition, teenagers kidnapped and murdered, and an American Christian woman hacked to death because they thought she was Jewish. These heinous crimes are justified, excused, and therefore enabled by the likes of the United Nations, who whitewashes terrorism as people's frustrations. Well, I am frustrated. And sometimes I am desperate because I have lost my friend, my health, an expectancy of a long life. I've lost my home, my vocation, the dignity to provide for myself. I've lost my anonymity, my independence, weight, sleep, routine, the mundane, even the ability to answer how I am. And because I have been a random and senseless target of terror, I've lost the edge of my humanity. And given the fact that I have been privy to hearing The last prayer of a woman as she is being murdered. I have lost my innocence. Yes, I am frustrated, but I have not taken out my frustrations on slaughtering innocent people. On the contrary, at the risk of my own life, I've hidden Muhammad Zouabi, an Israeli Arab Muslim teenager, in my own house from Muslims who wanted to murder him. I've traveled to Egypt to meet with a Muslim peace activist, and I've been to Bethlehem, which is under the jurisdiction of the Palestinian Authority. And there, in secret, I met with an Arab Christian pastor whose church has been bombed 14 times by Palestinian Islamists. But like me, this noble gentleman knows that to be held in perpetual victimhood is not noble, kind, moral, or true. I am thankful to belong to a people who choose life over death, a people who have God, a Torah, a language and a land, and whose very ancient indigenous rights are inscribed unequivocally on the annals of history and etched in archaeology throughout the land. I am thankful to belong to a people who choose light over dark, and it is Israel that nudges me to look to that light, a sunset, and not just see the machete that obscures it. And it is Israel that compels me to listen to the birds and not just hear the screams of my friend. And it is Israel who helps me inhale those fragrant pines and not just smell the vomit behind my gag. So I stand here today with my back to the United Nations, and on behalf of the thousands of Israeli survivors of Palestinian terrorism, I declare, Modani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam shechsat bi nishmati b'chemla, rabba emunatecha, I give thanks to you, O living and eternal King, that in your compassion you've restored my very breath. Great is your faithfulness. Am Israel chai!
Wow, thank you.